how can we see the middle ground as progress as well?
So this all or nothing thinking is a very stressful way to live life. I will say that, which is why it's very important that we give ourselves grace. The same way how we give people who wrong us grace, we have to give ourselves grace as well. Even though we can be our hardest critics, so it can be hard, but you have to give yourself grace in order to make progress, because as you continue to make progress, that's how you get to succeed in the goals that you have for yourself. And so the middle ground is sometimes important to reach the high ground that you're trying to achieve.
To avoid all or nothing, you have to be able to understand that being 1% better at the task you're doing, it means you're getting better. You don't have to be 100% better. You don't have to be 75% better. 1% better, 0.01% better is a step towards being as close to that perfection that you want to obtain. And like biblically speaking, if we didn't so in the New Testament, we're allowed to be 1% better, get closer to God, to Jesus as much as possible. Of course, we'll never reach there, no one will ever be perfect, but we're trying. Old Testament, if you didn't do everything that God said, you get struck down, you're killed. That's the end of the story. You're done. Fortunately, we have God's grace, we have God's mercy, and we're able to slowly climb those steps to be as perfect as we can be, even though we'll never reach it. So we have to give that same grace to ourselves, knowing.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to yet another CAYA. This is our second CAYA of 2026, and it's my joy and pleasure and privilege to be able to be with you on tonight. I am your host, as always, Reverend Eric Edwards, and we have some great panelists here with us on tonight. We have a special topic. We are talking about the topic, your voice, your vote. It is election season. We are in the midst of primaries right now, and that is why we're going to talk about this. But let's do our panelist introductions, because we have some phenomenal people who's back here with us again. One new timer, one first timer, then one who's back with us again. So we're going to start over here. Let's see, who are you?
Good evening. My name is Lisa Murray, and I represent the Social Justice Ministry. Your Social Justice Ministry here at St. Paul is here to keep you abreast of any civic engagement activities. Right now, our main focus is getting out the vote because of our current climate. So I'm happy to represent the Social Justice Ministry, the entire ministry. We're excited about me being here tonight. So thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you, Miss Lisa. It's definitely a joy and privilege to have you here. I know you said you represent the Social Justice Ministry. If you can, we may have viewers who might want to get connected with the Social Justice Ministry. So how can they go about joining the Social Justice Ministry?
You're in luck right now because we have a table in the vestibule every Sunday. Come over to the table. You can't miss us. We have our banners up, and you can get information on how to join us. You can also respond to the contact information that's provided on any of the churchcast announcements that go out from the Social Justice Ministry if you would like to be added to our list so that you can join our meetings.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Miss Lisa. We also have a returning guest over here to the left. How you doing, Reggie?
I'm well. I'm excited to be here. It's a topic that I enjoy talking about. I'm excited to have Miss Lisa here with us this evening as well, and gain some insight from her and just learn more about what the Social Justice Ministry is doing here at the church, and how we can be of service as a whole to the greater St. Paul community.
Yeah, definitely good to have you back on here, Reggie. As I said, we are talking about the topic of your vote. So your vote is a common saying that many nonpartisan organizations use to emphasize the importance of education and promoting the significance of participating in one's civic duties. Your vote is not just a slogan or common phrase. Your vote is not a cliche, But this phrase reveals the truth that all of us are imperative and significant for the flourishing and thriving of creation. This phrase reveals the truth that our voices matter in the world. This phrase reveals the truth that our participation, that our presence, and our God-given gifts are crucial for helping our communities to heal in this world to reflect God's desires. However, the truth is our communities right now are fractured and divided. Currently, many people are pessimistic about the conditions of our communities. Every day we hear news reports and read news articles that generate feelings of hopelessness and despair. Many people are rightfully uncertain about the appearance of the future. Hate has been normalized. Morality and ethics are now abnormal. Matter of fact, being immoral and unethical is kind of the norm right now. Jesus' altruistic, self-sacrificing, and eternally loving way of life is not embodied by those who proclaim to be followers of Jesus Christ. Every day we are dehumanizing each other and stripping our neighbors of their worth. Each and every day, many people are aiming to show their neighbors why they are better than them and why their lives are more significant and more value than other people's lives. There's a whole generation that is experiencing this form of struggle that we're in and this moral failure for the first time. And many people, including Gen Zs who are graduating college, are seeing how difficult it is to secure a good quality life. In other words, we are living in a time where compassion is absent and suffering is perpetuated. And although this is true, we have the opportunity of constructing something better. When we engage in our civic duties, we are active in how our communities will look right now and in how our communities will look in the future. When we engage in our civic duties, we are showing our rejection of the detrimental paths that our communities may be traveling down. Therefore, on this CAYA, we want to speak about the importance of voting and engaging in one's civic duties. And there's a reason why I say civic duties. Contrary to popular belief, one civic duty extends beyond voting. Voting is significant, but it doesn't also stop there. You are needed in other ways. Also on this CAYA, we want to renew your confidence in voting and give you tips on how to identify false and untrustworthy information. We will speak about the importance of intergenerational dialogue, which is why we're doing this right now, to kind of model that, yes, generations, we can sit down and have critical and crucial conversations together as we work towards God's plans together. And then we want to also show that we can find common ground as people. That's important. Most significantly, we're talking about this topic today because we want for our communities to unite. We want for our generations to unite, because when we unite in the love of Christ, we can finally become the people that God desires for us to be. So with that said, family, are you all ready for this conversation on today?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's get started. In 2020, John Lewis said, "The vote is the most powerful nonviolent change agent you have in a democratic society. You must use it because it is not guaranteed. You can lose it." End of quote. As people of color, we have not always had the right to vote. In fact, gaining the right to vote has been difficult, challenging, and arduous. So right now, we're engaged in a discussion of let's just outline how we got to voting rights here today. According to the National Museum of African American History and Culture, their website outlines the history of voting rights for African Americans in the United States. I urge you all to go look at it. Again, that's the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And it goes something like this. The history of voting rights in this country is as follows. In 1865, the end of the Civil War brought an end to legalized slavery in the United States. It also ushered in a revolutionary time period known as Reconstruction. In 1867, Congress passed the Reconstruction Acts, which placed former Confederate states under military rule until they ratified the 14th Amendment and established new legislation that guaranteed equal rights and protections for African Americans. Under the Reconstruction Acts, Black men in southern states could vote and hold elected office. However, Black women were not allowed to vote. Also in 1867, most northern states, with the exception of Maine and Vermont, still restricted voting to white men only. This changed in 1870 with the ratification of the 15th Amendment, which declared that states could not deny the right to vote, quote, on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude, end quote. Unfortunately, black women still in 1970, although the 15th Amendment is ratified, were still not allowed to vote. It was still to white men and black men, specifically some black men in the South. And still during this time period, still had black men in the North who still wasn't able to vote, with the exception of Vermont and Maine. During Reconstruction, white Southerners used violence, intimidation, and electoral fraud to suppress the votes of black men. When this happened, most African American men who held elected positions, they lost their offices. Between the years of 1870 and 1920, the women's suffrage movement began. African American women advocated for women's right to vote. In 1896, the National Association of Colored Women was established in Washington, D.C. This organization played a vital role in the struggle for women's suffrage, social reform, and anti-lynching movements. In 1920, the 19th Amendment was ratified and extended the right to vote for women nationwide. Although this is true, not all women could vote because women of color were still hindered from voting. Really what it did was secure white women the right to vote. The same voter suppression tactics that kept black men from voting was simply employed against women of color. In 1964, a lot of dates we throwing out, but it's crucial information because it's how we get to where we are today. In 1964, the 24th Amendment was ratified. That banned the use of the poll tax in federal elections. And then finally, in March of 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson introduced the Voting Rights Act. The violence in Selma, Alabama put pressure on Congress to pass this crucial legislation. This act outlawed literacy tests, poll taxes, and other obstacles to voting. It gave the federal government the authority to take over voter registration wherever voting rights were threatened. As a result of this landmark legislation, women of color were finally able to vote in elections without voter suppression tactics, voter intimidation, and other obstacles that would have prevented people of color the right to vote. So as you see, a series of laws had to happen. A series of ratifications, so amendments had to happen to get to where we are today. And then even with that, things don't stop there because most recently in 2009, you have the Supreme Court taking a key piece of legislation out of the Voting Rights Act that then gives states a little bit more leeway in suppressing the vote. So this is what has led to where we are today, to being able to have the right to vote, but to show that it's been a battle to get here. And unfortunately, we're still facing that battle. Just because LBJ signed that legislation and just because Congress passed it, it's being threatened right now. So with that being said, given the history of voting rights in the United States, what does it mean for you to have the right to vote?
You know, as we're putting out dates too, is one date that I want to mention. It was 1787, the preamble to the United States Constitution. I remember when I was in elementary school, we were learning the preamble to the Constitution, and it starts out with "We the people," right? And I was always conflicted because I had learned about slavery. I knew about slavery. I knew about the civil rights movement and stuff like that. So it was something that was just stirring at the moment. And something wasn't adding up. Because here in 1787, it's saying "We the people." But it's not until this date that I'm recognized as a person.
Yeah.
Right? And I want us to make sure that we always keep that in mind, because that is still there on that document till this day.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to the intent of what this nation was going to be had we not fought how we did. And if we don't continue to fight, what it could become.
Absolutely.
So that's what it means to me, man. We got to keep up the fight. We got to keep up the fight.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Miss Lisa, how about you?
So for me, the right to vote means blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
So I can remember the first election that I voted in, presidential election. And there was a gentleman, poll worker. He was in the parking lot, older black gentleman. And I was on my way to my car, and he said, "Thank you." And I started crying. And I said, no, thank you.
Mm.
Because I understood that people died so I would have this right.
Yeah.
So you go back to Schwerner, Goodman, and Cheney. Um, you go to Miss Fannie Lou Hamer.
Yeah.
She wasn't killed, but they burned her house down.
Yeah.
When you think about the people who actually died so you'd have that right, it's not to be taken lightly. And so every year when I go, I feel that sense of pride.
Yeah.
And I understand the weight of it all. And as I shared with you earlier, I always try and wear my one of my John Lewis T-shirts.
Yeah.
When I go vote, because I'm getting into good trouble.
Yeah.
At
That's
that
right.
moment, and
That's right.
I can't forget the sacrifices that he made as well.
Yeah.
Wow. That's good.
I want to ask a quick question about that, because you were talking about the poll worker and them saying thank you when you went to vote. The first thing I thought about was for us to really realize, and when was the last time that we actually actualized and felt the importance of that? And the first thing that came to mind was when President Obama was first elected. I think that was the first time for many of us, and I know for myself, that I felt this sense of hope, ironically, and euphoria around the civic and political process. And I just wonder, from your standpoint, I don't feel like I've had that since then. Why do you think that is?
Because they strip so much of it away intentionally so that you wouldn't feel that way.
Wow. Okay.
I felt that way because, and I still feel this way
Yeah.
because I was raised by the silent generation. So I was raised by people who lived under Jim and Jane Crow.
Gotcha.
So there's some inherent traits that I have.
Okay.
My behavior regarding the civil rights movement and how I carry myself, because I was raised by the silent generation. And the silent generation, they were not going to let you forget it. To this day, the ones that still remain, they're not going to let you forget it. I'll never forget. And Eric, you may know her, remember her, Reverend Edwards, Mrs. Gertrude Hamilton. She lived to be 105 years old.
Wow.
And I remember the day it clicked for me that she had lived under segregation.
Yeah.
And
It's a lot.
and the way she talked to me about shopping and going in different stores and what it was like.
Yeah.
And then I consider it an honor. I had the honor to take her to vote.
Wow.
And she would early vote. And so you can't take it for granted.
There was urgency there.
It
from
was
her
an
part,
urgency
too.
there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I think that by design, that feeling that we had when Obama won that night, because I'll never forget how I felt.
Yeah.
By design, that has been somewhat stripped away from us. If you look at gentrification, okay, so there's no sense of community amongst us. It's kind of forced at this point, and what's left over, they're trying to strip that apart as well. So it's just that sense of community that gave us that hopeful feeling.
It's interesting you bring up gentrification, and it's something that I didn't think about until you just said this. Home ownership is also a form of political activism, whatever, as well, right? Like, it's community, it's those type of things. During those times, we lived together, and so we could coordinate and talk through these type of things. I didn't even think about that. That's a good point.
Absolutely. And travel as well. Travel is a political act.
Wow.
Unless you go and stay in a resort. But if you go and become immersed in the people, then you learn, beyond the Disney world that they show you. It's a political act.
Wow. Man. I like
Y'all
that.
gave
I
you
like
some
that.
great stuff.
Yeah, I like that. I like
No, some necessary stuff. So talking about what does it mean, the right to vote? Interestingly, picture of a letter went out today, and it was a letter that W.B. Du Bois had typed right before his death. And he was kind of giving some reflections of death. And he expressed it as, this is him, it's his fulfillment. It's him earning the sleep that he worked so hard for. And then he said, for those things that's left unchanged, the work that still remains, he's confident and proud to be able to pass it on to other people, to be able to finish that work.
Yeah.
So when I see that letter, now knowing that I've read that letter and seen that from W.B. Du Bois, who is definitely in my cloud of witnesses, um, that's what it means, right, to vote to me, to continue the legacy that these people have started, to continue towards the work that these people have dreamed. I remember Dr. Otis Moss III in a sermon, he said that, preaching the Hebrews in the cloud of witnesses, he said, this generation, Gen Zs, are your ancestors' wildest imaginations. To have the right to vote means I get to carry on something that they left behind for us, right? Something they lived their life one not being able to do, and then eventually was able to do, all the blood, sweat, tears that they went through to be able to do it, and then to pass it down that we still have the right to do it. It means carrying forward the work that Frederick Douglass did, that Gardner Taylor did, that all those advocates did, Fannie Lou Hamer, those who said, no, we're not going to just remain in the way that society tells us that we ought to remain, but we're going to push forward for something better. So for me, it's about carrying forth the torch. It's about looking forward to something better for the community. It's about knowing that when I circle a name on the ballot, I'm circling a name for more than just myself, but it's also because I know that my neighbor has to live with the implications or the blessing that may come from that candidate. So I'm voting because of that. I'm voting because I care about you, and I want you to also experience a flourishing and thriving life. So all of that is what to me means the right to vote. So y'all have all said some great stuff. So now let's press forward and talk about the importance of voting and civic engagement. So many people may believe that one's vote does not matter. I think that's a lot of what you see on social media. It's a lot of language that you hear from millennials and Gen Zs that our vote doesn't matter. They believe that one vote will not change results of election, right? They look at a major landslide election, say by 50,000 votes. That may cause them to think, well, this one little vote isn't going to change anything. My candidate still lost, or my candidate's still going to win. However, I want to dig into this though. How can we overcome that mindset of my one vote won't change anything, and recognize the impact and importance of our voice in the community? So how can we overcome this mindset and recognize the impact and importance of our voice in the community?
I think it starts with just education. That's the first thing that comes to mind. I think a lot of that comes down to, I think there's really two instances where it happened, right? You have, I believe it was Bush v. Gore. And then was Trump this last one? Did that happen as well? 2020. So it's the popular vote versus the electoral college. And I think people have to do a better job of taking the emphasis to go, like we were talking, urgency to learn these things for yourself. They're not going to teach this in school. They're not going to necessarily tell you these things. So you have to take it upon yourself to learn these different things. And my question is, I wonder where this kind of stemmed from. Like, where did it start? Like, when did we start?
That's a good question.
We went from urgency and fighting for our right to vote to all of a sudden now we don't believe that it's worth anything. Who sold us that, and why did we buy it?
I think it's a lack of education. Okay, I think that we have this sense of we have arrived. So there's a group that says, I voted and I'm going home to sit down. You can't go home and sit down. Okay, and I had a conversation with someone before the last election. They were talking about Biden, and they were complaining because Biden was not able to do anything about student loans. But what they failed to realize was that Biden had taken it as high as he could take it. And if you don't vote for people who are going to support the president, it's null and void. So I think a lot of voter education needs to happen by design. Again, I'm going to say that I know when I was in high school, you only took one semester of political science, civics, and one semester of econ. And I think that it was on purpose so that you would not fully understand the process, because if you understood the process, you would know you to hold accountable.
Mhm.
So we need to take steps to educate ourselves and educate each other,
Yeah.
not only on the whole political process, but as you mentioned earlier, the Constitution.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people showed us on J6, they did
Yeah.
not understand the Constitution.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to look at what Jennifer Jen Jeter said in the chat. Everybody matters. Education and knowing their voice matter will help change the mindset. So you are exactly right. I want to highlight some statistics to show how one vote is so important. So from 1976 to January 5th, 2021, more than 85 U.S. Senate elections were decided by less than 3% of all votes cast. In this same time period, more than 410 U.S. House of Representatives elections were decided by less, again, than 3% of all votes cast. In 2016, more than 340 state office elections were decided by fewer than, watch this, 100 votes.
Wow.
If that doesn't tell you that your vote matters, because literally you have all of these elections that's coming down to the wire, right? It's just a matter of just a couple hundred people going out and saying, I can vote.
Yeah.
Now, we also do need to acknowledge something because I forgot to do it. Everybody don't have the right to vote.
Yes.
And everybody, they're unable to vote. We also do have to admit the very real thing that we live in a system that makes it increasingly hard to vote.
Yes.
Right? We live and work in systems that is not only trying to take away your right to vote, but for instance, there's many people who have jobs and their jobs won't give them the time to get off to vote. They'll think you going out trying to do something else and that you're going to hurt the company. You have our incarcerated brothers and sisters. When they get out, they can't necessarily exercise that right to vote. So I think we do have to be honest and just name one, those of us who do have the ability to vote, we are privileged in that.
Yeah.
But we also do need to acknowledge the very real reality that there are people who do not have the ability to participate in our elections.
That's right.
So I think we also got to remember that when we're going to the polls. Right? That we're also voting for those who also can't vote. Right? The future that we're trying to get behind, we're forcing them to live in a future that they can't voice their opinion about.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's something we just have to remember about when we start saying that our votes don't matter. They really do matter.
Yeah.
They really do count, especially with how close elections are, because every election is not going to be a landslide.
That's right.
That's a given. Every election will not be a landslide. And these close elections, it literally come down to a matter of hundreds to thousands.
Yep.
Anything else y'all want to add on that, or can we keep pressing?
Well, I think it was the point that Miss Lisa had made earlier about God almighty. Now it's slipping me. But what are we giving back? What are we passing back? What are we passing down, right? What is our generation passing down right now, man? I don't see that urgency from us.
Yeah. We don't want to generalize it because you do have those who are extremely into voting, who follow news closely.
That's right.
But the question is, what about those who were unable to reach, those who not necessarily participating in the system, those who not necessarily carrying out their civic duties?
Yep.
I think the question is, how can we effectively reach them?
That's fair.
And I think one thing we have to do is to show that you're an individual part of a collective. I think, unfortunately, in this country, we have taken on such an individualistic lens and way of life that we think if it's not bothering me, then I don't care.
Yeah.
Right? If my reality some way somehow is still the same, then it's all right. And we live in, we talked about this on CAYA, we live in the hustle, hard work mentality, right? Go out, get mines. Yeah. But I think one thing we have to do, and we can do this intentionally with our language, start using more we language. Like the way you reach out to people is not to be more individualistic with it, but show them you're an individual and a collective, right? You're in community. You are impacted by all that's going on, right? For those who erroneously thought that you're not going to be impacted by what's going on right now, like, how do you believe that? Humanity is literally tied in a web.
Yeah.
If you want to go biblical, that's what the Jews believed. So let's talk about this. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for giving it to me. When Jesus says those words, where two or three people, when two people gather my name, there I am in the midst, right? He's talking about in the heart, he's talking about reconciliation. It's from the standpoint that Jesus is in a culture that is inherently communal. That Jesus is in a culture that they understand that one's actions have an impact on the community. So when Jesus is saying all these things, he's confronting the very real reality that one person's wrongdoing doesn't just affect the one who was wrong, but he's saying it because he's taking them through all these steps towards reconciliation and then possible severing a relationship, having to remove the person from the community. Because if the person who keeps doing this wrong action keeps doing it, it's more than just about the one who was wrong. It's that one wrong action has an impact on the whole community.
Yeah.
Right? And if we get people to understand that,
Yeah.
we got them. If we get people to start seeing things from a more communal lens, which means we have to abandon stuff like consumerism.
Okay.
We have to abandon stuff like individualism. We have to be a little more altruistic and self-giving, because that's literally how humanity works. And it's the way of Christ.
Absolutely. I would say this: every friend group has one friend who is informed. And if you don't have a friend in your friend group that's not informed, go get new friends. But I said that to say this: in the friend group, make that person in charge of providing all the civic information, explaining what's going on prior to elections. And then we love partying with a purpose during early voting. Plan a day that you're all going to get together and vote and go out to brunch afterwards, or you're going to go to vote and go to happy hour, whatever. But make it a party with a purpose to get your people at the polls, and that they are educated voters. Because what you don't do can, if you think it doesn't matter to you one way or the other, but it does. Like, for instance, immigration doesn't bother me one way or the other. I'm a citizen, but I knew I did not want to see where we are now happening. So that was a big issue for me when I went to the polls. For instance, as a church, St. Paul, the other week, we had a big outreach to transportation department about a bus stop. Now, I don't live over here. I don't ride the city bus, but I was concerned about senior citizens not having shelter at a CATS bus stop. So what did I do like everyone else? I did the outreach to make sure that those voices are heard. So one of the bases of Christianity that we don't talk about is community. So it's about relationship building one with another. So I can't live in this place, as you stated earlier, of individualism. I have to live under koinonia, where that's my brother, that's my sister, and whatever affects them affects me too. So let me do what I can to help them get what they need.
I like that.
It reminds me of a book that I started out reading and I kind of just stopped because it got boring after the first 10 pages. But it's a book that was given to me when I was doing my internships at the churches, and it's about how trees are so connected. I mean, I was reading a book on trees. It was interesting for the first 10 pages. Trees communicate with each other. Okay, so trees, as their roots is going up underground, they purposely connect with the roots of other trees. The purpose for that is so that they can be in constant communication about the environment and what's going on. So, for instance, trees will often have bite marks and stuff from invasive species, invasive insects. You start seeing bark missing, leaves start falling, branches start falling off. You see that tree is clearly going through a decaying process. However, through the roots, the tree is communicating to the other trees beside it and is saying, hey, I'm not well. So therefore, I'm communicating to you something's going on with me, and it can threaten you as well. So what happens is those trees that just receive word that this invasive species is feeding this tree, they start building up, what's the proper word?
Antibodies,
or they start immunity, and they start leaking out a lot of sap and things of that sort to protect themselves from the invasive species. So now that tree is already prepared when that insect makes its way to that tree.
Wow.
Now, if a tree can be in community, But also, if a tree can't make it without another tree, what does that say about humanity?
Exactly.
And I don't know why we made it so much so to where we just think it's me, myself, and I.
Mm-hmm.
And where we think that we all just individuals able to make it by ourselves, because that's not the truth.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Didn't mean to talk about trees, but it's a fitting example. Well, let's press on because time is going by fast, and we can return to one of these questions. But I want to talk about this. One of the things, and I think it's something that really pains me during this time, is we see a whole lot of hate being spewed online, comments being made about those who didn't vote. Or those who may have voted in a certain way. Right, a lot of hate-filled comments from all parties. People who voted, people who didn't vote, people who voted. Just a lot of division. And it pains my heart because I think as people, especially as people who say we are people of love, and supposed to be like Jesus, I don't understand how we could harbor that much hate and dislike for a fellow human being. How do we compassionately and respectfully engage those who we disagree with? How can we prevent our disappointment in the election results from causing our communities to divide?
I mean, I think it starts with respect. I mean, we just talked about community, right? When it comes to a community, when it comes to family, we're not going to always agree with one another. I think it's a tough conversation to have. It's a tough subject because even with disagreeing on, let's say, who a person votes for, I have to respect their autonomy and their right to vote for whoever they chose to vote for. I can still disagree with the principle, right? But I can still respect the person. And I think that as a community, we have to do a better job at that, right? We don't have to necessarily agree with the principle or the theory that a person is living by, but we still must treat them with respect and, as we said earlier, love. So I think those would be the key things for me in that standpoint.
Yeah. And I agree. I think it's we have to have a little more compassion. I know we may be angry, but at the end of the day, right, we have to resist the urge to dehumanize people. We have to resist the urge to use language like "you deserve it" or like "you should be going through this." That's wrong. Is not the way of our Savior, Lord, and Jesus Christ, because Jesus wouldn't dare tell somebody you deserve to be going through this. I don't care how bad things are. None of us deserve to be going through the struggles and the trauma that we're all kind of encountering right now. But you hit it dead on the nail. The head on the nail, whatever the saying is.
I know
the hammer and the nail. I always mess up that saying, but you hit the hammer on the nail. Yeah. I make up a new saying. You hit it, Reggie. You did it. But when you said that you have to have respect, but also just love people a little bit more, because people are still people.
Yep.
And yeah, so that's what I would kind of say.
I do have a question though, because we were talking about individualism and when people make decisions that impact the community, right? So hypothetically speaking, if someone from our community voted for the current president, that's detrimental to the community. For me, it's going to be hard to show love in that situation. So the reason I said that is because I struggle with it too, right? Because it's like your actions are actually taking us back and you don't realize it.
Show love from afar.
Yeah, I was just thinking
show
that.
love from afar, because that person needs an exorcism, a therapist. They need more help than what you can offer.
Yeah.
Because there has to be something that there's some confusion somewhere.
Yeah.
So my advice is no, even though the flesh says you do want them to have that moment where this is the result of your vote, okay? The flesh tells you that, but love them from afar.
Yeah.
love them from afar.
Yeah, you don't have to be in close proximity.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't. At the end of the day, you're all, it's our choice as who we want to be in our inner circles, or who we want to speak with. So I want us to get there. Let's go through something else, because we're kind of modeling this now, and we're going to dig deep into this. And now I want us to move to a question talking about significance of understanding who and what we're voting for, and that's when we're going to really get to some of this nitty gritty type stuff. So currently, generations, we're blaming each other for the current climate of the country. You have Gen Z saying one thing about millennials and Gen X's, then you have those higher saying stuff, and we're just all this noise going both ways. However, all generations, we are misunderstanding one another. What's the significance of intergenerational dialogue, and how do we find common ground amongst our differences? So I think one thing I'd say, one, we got to understand that generations are shaped differently.
That's right.
So, for instance, let's read some of these generational dynamics. Because then this is going to help us to understand why generations are so different, and maybe why we're not necessarily seeing eye to eye. So, for baby boomers, those born between 1946 and 1964, they were influenced by radio, black and white TV, and conversations around the dinner table. They tend to favor auditory interactions such as in-person meetings or phone calls. I can tell you right now, Gen Zs, we don't like in-person meetings or phone calls. When the nuances of voice and a personal connection can convey sincerity and commitment. So that's baby boomers. They like in-person interaction, but there's also a part of the generation of things like colored TV, black and white TV, radio. I mean, not colored TV, black and white TV, radio. Some technology was just coming, right? They definitely didn't have phones, computers, all of that. Generation X, born between 1965 to 1980. They was influenced by, here we go, color TV, and early video games and magazines. They show a preference for visual communication and learning, and they appreciate clear, concise presentations and documents that allow them to grasp how things work quickly, reflecting their pragmatic approach to problem solving. That's the problem solving generation. You have something that need to be done and fixed, they're gonna go out and do it. Well, it's just also a lot of this reflective of what was going on during the times that they were born into and what they had to witness. Then you have millennials, 1981 to 1996. You a millennial?
Yes.
So this is you.
Yes.
You grew up in more of a digitally connected world, which is reflective of their communication preferences. They often prefer text, me too, and instant messaging, yes, please don't call me, for their convenience and ability to facilitate quick, full, absorptive exchanges. And then you have Gen Z, which is me. 1997 to 2012. Having been immersed in digital technology from a young age, it tends to favor the fastest form of communication methods available. Hence why you should text and not call, because that's way quicker. Send an email, stop having a phone call for something that's a text message. This often translates to brief, direct messages or digital platforms that support quick, relevant bursts of thought. So as you see, generations are so different, right? We experience different things, but also our generation and how we are is literally just reflective of the times of the world. As things got more advanced, the generations got more advanced, right? As phones started coming into play, you have less human-to-human interaction, more screen time for phones. So with that being said, what's the significance of intergenerational dialogue, and how do we find common ground amongst each other?
I think it gives us a relative point, because all those differences, they exist. I'm not going to say that they don't, but the problem still remains the same. We're still facing the same issues or the same cause of the issue that our grandparents and great grandparents were facing. It, the names change, but the game is the same. So we need to actually have conversation to understand. The generations aren't talking to each other right now. They're just not doing it. And at one point in time, multiple generations lived in one household, so that interaction took place. Now, the generations don't talk to each other, so you have, comments that are very untrue or disrespectful, like, we're not our ancestors. No, you're not. Your ancestors during the civil rights movement, and prior to that, it was about being able to survive.
Mhm.
So they couldn't react. They couldn't, have these knee-jerk movements on situations. It required a lot of planning. It required a lot of insight before they just jumped out there and did anything. And that it used to upset me, but then I realized that the reason why that thought was even brought up is because the conversations aren't being had.
Mm.
And so we need to start talking to each other from one generation to another generation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, one thing that I've noticed, and we've all hit on it, is listening,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
having a conversation, right? I think, and this is just based on my experience. In the past, when trying to have certain conversations, it seems like the older generation at times looks at the younger generations as though we don't know,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I can respect the wisdom and the things that the older generations have had to go through,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't believe our age should discredit us
Yeah.
for what we know and the things we've had to endure as well.
Mm-hmm.
I know we were talking before the actual show, and we were talking about Representative Lewis,
Mm-hmm.
and during the civil rights movement, how they were only in their 20s when they were, advocating and protesting and things like that. And I believe sometimes as a collective we forget that these were young adults who were advocating,
Yeah.
who were putting their lives on the line. And if we want to continue that legacy, then we have to look at those very same individuals today. We just never know that 20-year-old you're talking to at that school or out in the
Yeah.
community, that could be the next Representative Lewis.
Yeah.
But we have to start seeing them and viewing them as such, and not allowing for technology to just simply divide us.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree 100%. Y'all hit the hammer on the nail. I mean, y'all did. We have to have these critical conversations.
Yeah.
We have to do things like what we're doing right now, right?
Yes.
Sitting around, one, addressing our differences,
Yes.
acknowledge where we're all going wrong, right? Stop pointing the finger. You're going wrong here. No, let's acknowledge where we're all going wrong. And then we work towards the common goal together, because we all want the same thing, which is to thrive and to flourish. We all want a better future. In order to get there, it takes all of us, right? So y'all answer that sufficiently. Yeah, I really don't have more to add. So let's get to voting. Back to voting. I think all of this is still a crucial part of voting, because you want to know how to reach Gen Zs? Start talking to us. And then Gen Zs, let's start listening. But then also don't discredit us. Like Reggie said, because we are incredibly gifted as well. Like what Pastor say, he has high hope for us. So we'll see what happens in the future and see where God takes us. So voter education. And we talked about this a little bit before the show about misinformation. How can we ensure that the information we receive is credible and legitimate?
Know your history. Okay, that's number one. Because if you know it, they can't tell you any misinformation. So be clear on history. Whether you want to hear it or not, be clear on history. Don't wait until it's election time to find out about the issues.
Yeah.
Find out about the issues. Become an engaged citizen. It's plenty of opportunities to become an engaged citizen. I'll say this up front. Politicians say amongst themselves, if you want to get elected, you got to go by St. Paul. They say that all over the state.
What?
Yes.
Interesting.
You
Wow.
have to come by St. Paul.
Man.
So with that being said, don't keep up with who shows up and what they say when they come. Okay? I had someone try to tell me about voting for somebody outside the polls one election day. And I said, if he does a bad job, don't come over to 1401 Allen Street. So you can do whatever you want to. Just don't show up over there, because I'm going to give you a hard time. So start holding them accountable. Don't wait until election time to know about the issues. Their voting records are out there. Go out there and look at the voting records so you can see who they are. Keep up with the things that they say so that they can't say, well, I said it, but it was taken out of context. No, you said what you said.
That's
You
right.
voted how you voted, and look at where we are now.
That's right.
Hold
That's
them
right.
accountable. Don't wait until election day.
Yeah.
Okay? Check out their records. Join organizations who will help you through that. Dr. William Barber, Repairs of the Breach.
Yeah.
Get on his email list.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Join other organizations. You don't have to do the hard work, but make sure that they help you stay informed.
Mm-hmm.
On social media, there are organizations that post and they have accurate information. Okay, rely upon that.
Yeah.
But don't wait until election season
Mm-hmm.
to find out about the issues, and whatever the issue is that they are putting on their commercials, because it's already started. Do the research behind what they're actually saying, because the buzzwords are for people who are not inclined to do the research. You do your own research so you can know exactly what that means.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because we, amongst ourselves, we know what woke means.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do the research behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So you'll know. That person could be a nice person, but they don't vote in your interest.
That's right. That's right. So what I hear from you, Miss Lisa, is like, don't be passive in your involvement.
No.
You can't wait for somebody to give you all this information. You need to go out there and do it for yourself as well.
You do. You
Okay.
do. You do. Especially because you live in Charlotte. If you live in Charlotte, you have to understand how we're viewed across the state politically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you.
And
Now-
you have to understand what political theater is.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
What was you gonna say?
No, I'm just
Oh,
agreeing.
okay.
I'm just
Yeah, I want to say, as far as also ensuring that information you're receiving is credible, is websites that shows the credibility of news sources. It shows where they fall on the spectrum. Are they more left-leaning? Are they more right-leaning? Are they more in the center? And then it also shows that the higher you move, the more credible the news source is. So you have at the very top, you have companies like NPR, Associated Press. I think we have a great NPR station here in Charlotte, WFAE. They're pretty much the only station. I don't really listen to music on my drive. And anytime I'm driving, I'm like listening to NPR.
Nice.
Because let's just be honest, a lot of us not can go home and read 5 articles. So you have trusted people, credible people who can talk about these things online on your drive on the way to work or going on the way home, going to the grocery store. That's one thing. But yeah, find a good, credible news source. One thing we see on social media, one thing that's rising now is independent journalism. You see a whole lot of social media influencers starting to become independent journalists. They're not connected to news stations, but their whole job is they're trying to bring you some news. If you're going to do that, I say, make sure what they're saying is credible as well. That if they're going to offer this analysis of the topic, that they're giving the whole wide scope of it, and that they're giving a really informed outlook on what they're talking to. Because one thing we don't want to do is just get our information from social media with poor context, AI generated pictures, AI generated videos, AI generated text. That's how misinformation spreads, which means we just can't fall for anything that we see. In the words of theologians, we got to have a hermeneutic of suspicion. Do some deeper research. And then I'll just add, and we can move into this, what's the importance of knowing who and what we're voting for. Know who you're voting for. Know the position and what they do. So for instance, when it comes to local governments, right? City council, they're often the legislative branch. They're creating policy for the local city. Then you have the municipal courts. That's the judicial branch. They're trying to enforce all these laws. Then you have the mayor, more of the executive branch. So let's talk about the responsibilities of city or town council, because I feel like a lot of people may not know exactly what city council do. They enact laws and policies consistent with state law. They enact an agency's budget. They define the powers and donates and they define the duties of municipal officers and employees. They fix the compensation of municipal officers and employees. They maintain retirement and pension systems. They impose fines and penalties for violation of city ordinances. They regulate the acquisition, sale, ownership, and other disposition of property. They provide governmental, recreational, educational, cultural, and social services. They impose taxes as authorized by state law. They grant franchises for the use of public ways. They license for the purpose of revenue and regulations most of any type of businesses. That's what the city council do. Notice, city council does that. Mayor doesn't do. The mayor doesn't do that. So what does the mayor do? They're charged with carrying out the policies set by the city council, seeking to it that the local laws are enforced and managing the day-to-day agency operations, including the supervision of all appointed officers, employees, and performance of their official functions. So they enforce the contracts. They bring lawsuits with the council approval. They preside over city council meetings, and in some cases in cities, they're the tie-breaking vote. They call special meetings to the council. They prepare a budget. They can't approve a budget. They can prepare it. They report to the council of the financial and other things going on with agencies and the agency needs. They perform as ceremonial head of the agencies, and then they approve or disapprove all official bonds and contracts and bonds. Notice, these are two different ways of operating. If we don't know these things, then we're not going to understand who it is that we're voting for and what we're voting for. And because one thing, we don't want to put people in office who won't even hold credibility for that job, who let alone they themselves don't even know what they're doing in this position. So it's real important for us to be informed when we're going out to vote in this election season. Anything else to add to that?
I'd like to add to that. That way you know who to hold responsible.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot recently about holding a certain local politician responsible for certain things that is not in that person's wheelhouse, because Charlotte runs under a city manager. So yeah, know who to hold responsible.
Yeah, and having an understanding of what people do, what don't people do, it allows us to do things like go to the city council meeting and be able to accurately say, you did this, and I don't like that you did this, or you didn't do this. As Miss Lisa said, yeah, it allows us to know who to hold accountable. Lastly, I want to just put a scripture on your radar, and it's Acts chapter 4, verses 32 through 37. I'm going to read it. Now the whole group of those who believed were of one heart and soul, and no one claimed private ownership of any possessions, but everything they owned was held in common. With great power, the apostles gave their testimony to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and great grace was upon them all. There was not a needy person among them. For as many as owned lands or houses sold them and brought the proceeds of what was sold. They laid it at the apostles' feet, and it was distributed to each as any had need. There was a Levite from Cyprus, Joseph, to whom the apostles gave the name Barnabas, which means son of encouragement. He sold a field that belonged to him. Then he brought the money and laid it at the apostles' feet. So in this narrative, Luke shows the unity, love, and care that was present in this early Christian community. In verse 32, when Luke says that no one claimed private property of any possessions, Luke is saying that people were eager to share their possessions. No one was individualistic or hoarded resources. Sharing was not a matter of compulsion or forcefulness, but everyone gave freely because well-being of one's neighbor was central to the community. In verse 34 to 35, notice that the text says that there was not a needy person among them. The text, when Luke writes this, he's saying that everyone's resources were met. No one lacked vital resources. Those who had ample resources generously distributed them to the people, and those who needed resources, they received everything they needed so that they could thrive. Also notable in the text that the people gave without expecting things in return. This practice is crucial because it showed their rejection of the norms of Rome. In Rome, there was a friendship among those who were social equals, right? You looked out for those who were rich if you were rich. Disregard those who's poor. Instead, the rich are helping those who are living in poverty in this community. Those with resources are fulfilling their obligation of helping their neighbors to make it. And this is crucial because the truth is that our well-being depends on one another. Humanity is linked together in a web. We cannot make it without each other. And most significantly, it's impossible for us to not be impacted by someone else's struggle. The truth is that because humanity is intricately connected and linked by God, if our neighbor is well, then we are well. And if our neighbor is hurting, then we are hurting, which means that anything that happens in the community will have widespread impact. So here's this final question I want us to answer in about 30 seconds. Knowing that we are seeing this community that's embracing this new way of life, where everyone is taken care of, this small Christian community, How does this passage influence our understanding of voting as an act of care for the community? How does this text influence our understanding of voting as an act of care for the community?
I think it goes back to what we said earlier. It's like we're all connected.
Yeah.
We're all interconnected, and we got to look out for each other. Our act of voting is our way of looking out for our brother and sister, and we can't take that lightly.
I agree. I agree. Ms. Lisa, anything to add, or you?
I agree 1000% because my brother's problems are actually my problems. So I can't vote for someone who's not going to help my brother's problem. I can't vote for someone who is going to make life worse for them. And sometimes we as Christians need to understand it's not about me agreeing or disagreeing. I just don't want people to suffer. So yes.
Yeah. Yeah. You all right. It shows us that we have to be concerned about the concerns of our neighbors. That it's not just us, but it's all of us. And when we start thinking more communally, we can finally help our communities be healed, and hate can be eradicated, and we can finally get back to morals and ethics, or finally get there for the first time. That being said, fam, it's been absolute joy. I pray that you have gained a lot of information about voting, about the current times we're in, but also you have some good, solid things to take with you as you are going to the voting polls. As a reminder, General Election Day is March the 3rd. That's it. And then we are anticipating the midterms in November. But until then, fam, listen, see you soon, and we'll see you back next month for another CAYA topic.